Hey, what's going on guys? Alex here with TFL Bike. We've got Case behind the camera, and this is a really exciting video. We're doing a fleet update today on all the bikes that TFL, Case, and myself own. We have them all in Case's garage here. We've never done this, and there's a lot of bikes to go through. You've seen most of these in some form of video, but yeah, let's just start working our way through. Where should we start? Just right up front?
Yeah, it's
Do we start with the small ones? What do we start with?
We'll start with Alex's bikes.
Okay, so we'll start with this one that I rode most recently. This is my 2016 Yamaha R6. Obviously not street legal. It's full track bike, no paperwork, no insurance, no title, no plate. But yeah, this is what I take to the tracks, mostly High Plains Raceway around here, Pueblo Motorsports Park, PPIR. I do a lot of track days. There's a great group, Legion Moto, around here. So yeah, as far as what's done to this bike, Imperial Sport Bikes did a full, really in-depth motor build on it, and then after I crashed it, I did a 2017 bodywork conversion. So it's got aftermarket fairing stay subframe. Yeah. It's kind of a funky bike, but it is so fun.
I mean, it's built to the hilt because this is what, Moto America is?
Yeah, this bike was raced in Moto America for a few seasons.
So it's a monster, and Alex recently just got
the A group bump. Hell yeah. So I'm really stoked on that. So yeah, this bike doesn't get ridden as much as I'd like to, because obviously it's a whole thing to ride it. You gotta
load up, take it to the track.
Yeah, you gotta, take days off work a lot of times. So I wish I could ride this more. This is such a fun bike, but it's obviously just super purpose built. So yeah.
You want to start it up real quick?
Yeah, I can start it up. Actually, we'll show this because it's kind of funny. One of the things I want to do with this bike is redo the wiring, because you've got 3 kill switches. You've got bike power, that's like the key. You've got a switch for the fan, and then this is the actual kill switch, and then you've got a start button here. Let me make sure I'm in neutral, which I'm not. And then I've got this little button here, so I hold it for 5 seconds, and it's got an auto warm-up feature, and that's just so cool. How can you not love that?
It's a pretty badass bike.
It's sweet. So anyway, there's the R6.
And then we go to the completely opposite end of the spectrum. So Alex, the sport bike guy, somehow, I like to think that I helped play a part.
You totally played a part in this, yeah.
And swaying you to the dark side.
Yeah, so this was a funny story, actually. I wanted an XSR 900 very badly, which we'll get to in a second. I had an MT-09. I listed the MT-09 for sale, and I figured I'd buy this until I could get my hands on an XSR, because they were really hard to find. And then I was able to buy one a lot quicker than I thought. So I had this. I figured I would try something different for a few months. I love this bike, but I don't ride it enough. I've got too many bikes, as you can see in this video. So this one's for sale. If you're interested in it, let me know. But the guy I bought it from did a pretty cool custom bobber build on it. And this is the reason I bought this bike right here.
You always wanted the blue tank.
I wanted, not necessarily the blue, I just wanted the candy, what do you call it? The bass boat or whatever.
Yeah, like bass boat flakes.
Yeah, so the tank is sweet, and that's what sold me on the bike. But it's the first Harley I've owned, the first thing with forward controls I've ever owned.
Is that the first V-twin you've had?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is so loud.
V-twins are fun.
Yeah.
Should we crank this one up too?
Yeah, we can crank this up. Oh, that's not the start button.
That's not the start button. Yeah, I'm sure that distorts a ton through video, but in person that sounds so good. The thump of a V-twin is just hard to beat. Yeah. This is a really cool bike.
These pipes aren't great. You can tell I've gotten my pants a couple times on them, but it's a fun bike. And like I said, if you want it, send us an email or something. I'll be happy to move it on to a new home.
Now, much more Alex's typical style is this XSR that actually we had on loan from Yamaha for a long time. So they lent us this bike. We did some testing with it. And then at the end of it, Alex said, hey, do you want to just sell it to me?
Yeah, and they did. So I bought it from Yamaha, and man, I love this bike. I had an MT-09 2019 for 3 years. Never thought I was going to get rid of it. I just love the motor, the CP3 that Yamaha does.
Yeah, and especially the updated CP3.
Yeah, this is, more displacement. It's an 890 now, but the biggest change in this bike is the front suspension. The way it just sticks to the ground now. It handles so much better than the old MT-09 I had. I love the design of it. I know a lot of people hate the look of this big frame right here.
Yeah, and the
seat hump. I think it's a really cool look, and
I think it's better looking than the majority of bikes in this class. I think it's better looking than most naked bikes. This versus the Z900 RS. that's a tough call, but
Especially the cafe version of the Z900 RS
Yeah.
with that front fairing. You can't really beat that.
but at the same time, in terms of how it actually rides, this XSR 900 matches Alex's riding style way better
Yeah,
than
and-
the Z900. So
Exactly, and it's got all the modern tech. I'm a tech nerd, so it's got, like slide control, lift control. It's got the TFT
Yeah.
screen, 6-axis IMU. So nice upgrade from my MT-09, but a very similar bike, which makes
Yeah.
me happy.
this one we won't start up because it's a factory pipe on it. It sounds
Yeah,
like a weed
it needs a
whacker.
pipe. We'll start it up for you when we get a new pipe put on it.
Yeah, now, I'm always jealous of Alex. Well, it's because I spend too much money on the things with 4 wheels to have as many bikes as Alex has, but still have a couple. And this is the one that I use the most. This is a bike that I bought in college, and you've probably seen it on the channel if you're even slightly interested in Sportsters or V-twins, but this is my Sportster. It's 2006, so it's the last year that they were carbureted. And even up here at altitude, honestly, it being carb is really not an issue at all. And this has just been a great bike. Obviously, so I bought it, it was pretty much a stock XL1200C, the custom. So it looked a bit more like Alex's bike, but not quite as kind of cool as the 48. So I went through and put knobby tires on it and the moto bars and did this tank and seat and different pipe and I mean, all kinds of stuff over the years to turn it into a bit of a scrambler, which is a great style of bike to have in Colorado because it's a fairly upright bike, so you're pretty comfortable. And the nice thing about having the knobby tires is that we've got a lot of dirt roads out here, but we also have a lot of paved roads that they spread gravel on. So these knobby tires are pretty killer out here in Colorado. This has just been a really practical, fun bike to ride. Yeah, comfortable.
And you rode this like everywhere in college.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, as long as there wasn't snow on the road, I would ride this bike. I had a car and I almost never used it. When I started first working at TFL, Alex would, I think he thought I was a little bit crazy because it would be well below freezing.
This guy's first day of work was like a 15-degree day in January or something. And
Yeah.
I got out of my Jeep, walked into the office, and there was a guy sitting outside our office on his motorcycle helmet, and I didn't know we had a new guy starting, and I was like, who is this idiot that's freaking riding his Harley into work in the middle of the winter?
New
But,
coworker.
okay.
Yeah, and this one does have a pipe on it, so we'll go ahead.
Pipe's pretty new
and
too,
start
right?
this up.
Didn't
Yeah.
you just throw that on?
Yeah, so this is a pipe from Kinetic. These pipes are not cheap, but I do really like the look of them, and I'm no good at welding, so it's nice to have this pipe. It's also really difficult to find a pipe for these bikes that doesn't run along the bottom of the bike, and I kind of needed that because to run this style of seat, this banana seat, needed to lift the rear end a bunch. So I think, if I remember right, because it was years ago that I did this, I think there's a 13.5 shock, 13.5 inch, which brings the swing arm so far down that most of the pipes that run along the bottom of the bike will actually end up impacting the swing arm because that's how much further down it sits. But this pipe is one of the few that you can get for a Sportster that runs along the side of the bike, which is good because, it's a Scrambler, but also it's functionally nice. And I like the way it sounds too. So similar to Alex's Sportster, it's too loud really to appreciate on video, but it is a really fun bike. The only issue with it is that it's so loud. Sometimes leaving the house in the morning, I feel bad because I get up pretty early, which is why eventually, this one I'm not going to start up for you.
This one's silent.
Yeah, this one right now is human powered anywhere it goes. This is my first motorcycle, and actually this right now is the first time I've shown anything of this bike on this channel. This is a 1975 Honda CB750, so the old single overhead cam CB750 from back in the day. It's one that I got when I was in high school, about 16 years old. Spent years riding it before I also got this bike, and you can probably tell I kind of have a style. But yeah, this bike right now, Andy, who if you've watched the channel for long enough, Andy's our local motorcycle expert. He and I are doing a rebuild on this engine because I didn't know enough when I bought this bike in high school, and that motor has never been that great, and surprisingly, it didn't really fix itself over the years. So Andy and I are going to do a full rebuild on this motor, get this bike back together, hopefully before the end of the summer. There's a lot going on this summer, but then we'll have a full-on riding video about this bike because these old CB750s are legendary motorcycles. And then we've got two other bikes here that belong to friends of mine that live in this garage. This is an absolutely stunning Honda XL 185. This is a beautiful old dual sport, a 79 if I remember right. It's got 1,400 miles on it. This bike was preserved really well. If what I remember is true, I think this bike was actually stored inside someone's house, not in their garage, but physically inside their house. So
it looks like
it's a time capsule. A little dusty right now, like most things in the garage, but it's a really, really stunning bike. And then this is my buddy Connor's completely unhinged Honda Trail 70.
The worst riding bike in the garage.
Yeah,
easily.
This thing is really sketchy. So
terrifying.
Obviously originally a 70cc bike, he put 140cc Lifan motor in it, which is one of the kind of knockoff Chinese engines, and it's terribly sketchy to ride. I mean,
looks sick, but
yeah, it looks really cool, but well, look, at the end of the day, no matter what you do to these bikes, they were never made to ride on the highway.
No.
He rides it because
he's done it like highway rides, though.
All
he's
the time.
taken it on...
Yeah, all the time, because he has no sense of danger or self-preservation, but it's a cool bike. It fits him, but it's absolutely terrifying to ride on a fast road. And then I'll take the camera back so that Alex can
go
show
through
you.
our mini bikes.
Yes, really the highlight.
Yeah, this is what you came here to see, right? Best for last. So first off is a bike that Case and I actually co-own. This is I don't even know what year. Case, what year is this?
I think it's an 83.
Okay, we'll go with that. It's an 83 Honda Moto Compo, which never was sold here in the US. I'm sure most of you watching know what these are, but in case you don't, it's a briefcase bike. The handlebars fold into the body, the seat folds down, and it looks super retro, futuristic at the same time. And it was a factory option for a Honda City, basically, like the Japanese version of the Civic.
A little hatchback. And this bike just has some crazy features. I mean, you know, these decals on it are wicked cool. And I love how everything on this bike is labeled, but it's got some things like this little cable to lock it, which, like I think Tommy said, a motivated person with a sharp pair of scissors could probably get through that. But other things too, like hit the turn signal. Listen to this. It's a little slow to get going, but that noise is hilarious. Especially when the bike is not running, it's a little slow. And like the background to the gauge,
which is backlit actually.
Yeah, it's super, super cool. Too, the fuel gauge has, I would assume that says empty and full. It's a little hard for Alex and I to read. We need to put a new gasket around there and touch up that paint. But otherwise, I mean, this bike is absolutely
very clean.
Perfect.
And we bought this from a website called Iconic Motorbike Auctions. They're based out in California. They don't have anything to do with us. We just paid them, and
definitely don't go to that website because it's a good way to spend a lot of money.
It's a great way to spend a lot of money, but they have moto compos all the time. So if you want one of these, that seems to be the place to go. And they were super easy to work with. We lined up a really easy shipper. They brought it from Santa Monica out to Colorado in a couple days, and it was pretty rad.
This is just Alex's favorite bike of all time.
Yeah, this is the best bike in my garage. This is a 2023 Honda CRF 110. This is the third CRF 110 I've owned in just the past couple of years. And so the first one I bought was the new one like this. It was fuel injected. It has the cool frame that looks like the full-size 450.
Yeah.
I sold that, regretted it, bought the older version, and then sold that one, also regretted that. And then Honda released these awesome colors in this teal and white. I couldn't resist, so I had to go buy one. And this is just the perfect bike. It's a camping bike. It's great up at like Tumbleweed Ranch. It's a great pit bike. You can ride it around the neighborhood if you're not going too far.
You can put anyone on that bike. If they've never ridden a motorcycle before, just tell them, I mean, just twist with your right hand. The clutch is built into the transmission, so you've got nothing to operate with your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I've even thrown people on it, like I'll click it into second gear and then be like, okay, here you go. You don't need to shift, just ride it in second. And it's great.
It's a great way to get people excited about being on a motorcycle while still, you can leave the stressful things for someone who's learning, like figuring out a clutch for later on. So it's just an awesome bike.
Yeah, love it. say I'll never sell it, but if we follow the patterns I take, I'll probably sell it at some point and then have to buy another one. Yeah, exactly. Next up is this Ovale GP0 190. So this is the big version, or the big motor version. They also make a GP2, which is the bigger frame. But this is a really cool training tool almost. We have a kart track, IMI Motorsports Park. It's a 1 mile go-kart track outdoor, and it's perfect for little bikes like these. It's $50 to get in there for the day. So when I said I don't have enough time to ride my R6, it's a huge commitment. When I can't make it out to a big track, this is what I take to the small track because it's just so easy to hop on, and it teaches you a lot. It's really hard to ride actually, surprisingly, and it's super well built. I mean, just look at some of these components, inverted forks, it's all made in Italy.
I mean, it seems like a goofy thing, but these are genuinely really impressive performing bikes. And, you know, I mean, if any of you have seen videos on Ovales from other YouTube channels, you'll know that these are really legit bikes. They're just tiny.
Yeah, and this one was actually Yoshimura's. So it has a Yoshimura exhaust on the back of it. And as far as I know, this is the bike they used for development and testing of their exhaust systems for the Ovale bikes. Yeah. Then it went through a couple owners before it went to me. But I love this thing. I bought it with a 110 and a 190 as kind of a package deal, sold off the 110. Eventually, I'd love to move up to the GP2, but I'm into this bike for like $3,500 and a new GP2 would be like $8-9 grand, and that's full-size motorcycle money. So this will have to do for now. Yeah, and then lastly, we've got a bike you've seen a ton on the channel. This is the Super Monkey, as we like to call it. It's a 2021 Honda Monkey that had like $4,000 worth of parts thrown at it by the guy that owned it.
We calculated it. I think they did spend more money on just the parts alone, not including installation, to make this bike what it is than what the bike MSRP is supposed to cost. And it's cammed. It's had a ton done to it, and it's such a good-looking monkey. The
build list is super impressive. There's a few things wrong with this bike. My seat just ripped, so
yeah, man.
I'm trying to decide if I should get like the new plaid seat that they do on the new monkeys or some sort of custom reupholstery on that. So that's kind of a bummer. And then I have a power draw issue too. I've got an aftermarket tack and temp gauge on here. And for some reason, if you leave the bike not plugged into a battery tender, that's why I have this hanging out here, because it always pretty much lives on a tender. After a few days, it won't want to start. The battery will be completely dead. I'm sure I could figure out the issue, but I've got so many projects, so many vehicles, and this one's light and easy enough to bump start. I've just kind of been living with it for the past year and a half. But yeah, there's the mini bikes. And funny enough, as we were wheeling these over from my house to Case's, there was someone outside that was like, hey, are those motorcycles for sale? And I was like, the Harley is. And he was like, no, what about the small ones? Nope, none of the small ones are for sale because they're too fun. And yeah, other people are interested in them too. So it goes to show the popularity of small motorcycles.
What's great about them is that you're never really worried about them, dropping them. You're not worried about how much they cost or them getting damaged or anything. So you could just go all out and have as much fun as possible. And this really spans the gamut with the different kinds of mini bikes you can have. I mean, we've got a retro, funky mini bike, we've got a miniature dirt bike, we've got a miniature race bike, and a miniature street bike. So, this is really good coverage. Obviously, 3.5 of them are Alex's, but I'm also a fan. And I do have a 1971 Honda Monkey, also in this blue color, but right now that's over at our guy Andy's house. He's helping me fine-tune a couple things on it because that bike I'm looking to sell.
I mean, and like you said too, like, there's nothing wrong with it. You obviously like to spend your money on bikes and cars, and I'm more of a spend all my money on bikes. Of course, I've got some fun cars too, but
these things just soak up so much money. You know, I mean, you could build a whole cool bike for the cost of doing one of the many things that you might want to do on a car, which is a great thing about motorcycles.
Yeah, that's kind of my point with mini bikes is that, first of all, look how they're parked. You could fit like one Harley here or 4 mini bikes here. The Moto Compo lives under your staircase most of the time, so it's just kind of tucked in there. And also for the cost of all of these, I could get rid of all of these and have like one really nice street bike, or I could have all these fun little mini bikes and have a blast on them and throw friends on them. And I think the fun factor really shows with mini bikes when your friends start to come over and you start putting people on bikes and all riding together. So This isn't an advertisement for mini bikes. This is a full fleet update, but we always need to talk about the minis.
Yeah, and then this Yamaha TW200 is something that I'm sure most of you have seen a ton of times. This is just a great motorcycle, especially to have here in Colorado. Fantastically reliable and easy to ride dual sport. It's something that we've taken out a bunch, including a recent trip to Moab where we rode this and also our buddy David's KLR on a really scenic, pretty trail in Moab. That was a ton of fun. This has been a great bike for us. The company also has an Aprilia Touareg, and then Tommy personally has a Honda Monkey as well. Both of those bikes are up in the mountains in Keystone, so they're harder for us to get to, but yeah, no, this TW200 is just a really, really good motorcycle.
Yeah, I wanted to hop on it real quick just to show I'm not a very big dude. I'm 5'10", so I'm not super short, but obviously I'm small in stature, and I feel like I make this bike look a little bit small. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's the best part about it. Even someone like me who, you know, feels overwhelmed on some really big adventure bikes sometimes. Yeah. I could take this to Moab or anywhere in Colorado and
anybody can fit on that bike.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, these are the motorcycles that we have around, which really brings up a good point. There's a lot that we can potentially do with these motorcycles. So to wrap up the video, we'll throw it out to you guys. If there's a video in particular that you want to see with any one or any combination of the motorcycles in here, let us know, because we're always happy to make videos on the bikes that we have access to.
We do a lot of drag racing, and we have a lot of contenders here for drag races. So potentially let us know what matchups you want to see.
Yeah.
We could do a lot of fun drag races with all the bikes in this garage.
Yeah, absolutely. And too, I mean, Alex does obviously a lot of track riding, so could do some more track reviews. There's going to be a track review coming very soon. That's something that you'll see not too long from now. And yeah, that's pretty much it for us. These are the bikes that we spend our time on.
Yeah, there you go. Let us know what's sitting in your garage, and we'll catch you in the next video.